Thank you for your thoughts on thinking. Uh, I don't appreciate that you jinxed me by saying I could answer any question. Nevertheless, thank you all for your practice. And does anyone have a question?
I'll ask the first question. Thinking of what Steve was saying, and thank you for the talk. It makes a lot of sense because when I'm chanting, also if I think of something else, I screw up. I realize I'm 3 or 4 or 5 lines behind. And this morning, while I was chanting the morning bell chant, my mind, it was so interesting to see it. It kept pulling me to look at a picture frame I have, or it kept pulling me to look away from the lyrics or the chanting lines towards the clock to see what time it was. So if you can comment, why is it that our mind seems to do that to us? That we're trying to concentrate on our chanting, and our mind is look at this or think of that, and it keeps trying to pull us away from what we're trying to concentrate on.
Uh, yes, I think most people have exactly the experience that you described and that Steve described also. I found that for me and for others that I've talked to, the best technique for dealing with monkey mind is breath. So if you base your practice on your breath, then when these extraneous thoughts appear, you can literally breathe it away as if you've kind of put it on this plume of breath that's coming out of your mouth or your nose and shoom. Thoughts seem to like the ride, actually. You get the feeling the thought is saying, oh, I didn't really mean it anyway. Thank you very much. Goodbye. So I do strongly encourage a breath-based practice. And, you know, Judy has mentioned my pranayama husband, you know. Yeah, so I've done a lot of breath practice that's not necessarily related to meditation practice. It's called pranayama in yoga, which simply means breath practice or breath control. It's nothing very exotic or difficult at all. It's simply a matter of doing it. So at the risk of repeating myself, because I've gone through this a number of times during these question answer periods, let me describe this sort of breathing. And it doesn't have to be exactly the way I do it, but some variation that seems to work for you is fine. So first of all, the breath itself. So the inhalation actually begins down here. So your stomach actually goes out at the beginning of the breath, and then the rib cage expands, and then a little bit at the top too to make it really a complete inhalation. Then holding it for a very short period of time I found to be an important part of the practice. Then the exhalation is very, very complete, more complete than at first you think you can actually make it. And during the exhalation, the abdomen comes in, and this naturally results in a straightening of the spine. So this technique is also a posture correcting practice. And the exhalation is really, really complete. And at the end of the exhalation, for a very short period of time, just hold the breath out. Now, simply concentrating on that in itself is enough to drive all of the thoughts away. I'm not going to have anything to do with this. Just okay. So you're in control. You get the feeling, that these flittery, jittery thoughts don't exist in this environment and this breathing technique. So you can couple the breathing technique with a mantra, which is what I do. And a mantra is, after all, some kind of thought. So whatever the mantra is, it's like Kwan Seum Bo Sal. Well, Kwan Seum Bo Sal, that's a thought. But it's only one thought. So if you can keep just one thought throughout, the breath cycle, then your meditation becomes very strong. So I've described this before, I know, in detail, but once more, the practice that I do in connection with this kind of breathing is Kwan Seum Bo Sal chanting, or lately actually it's been Jijang Bo Sal chanting, because I'm doing 49 days of Jijang Bo Sal chanting for my sister who died a few weeks ago. Or it can be Namo Amitabha, or it can be Wa Om Songjong, which for me is a very strong practice. Hua Om is the Avatamsaka Sutra, and you've heard about that from Zen Master Hae a lot, I hope. So the assembly that attended the Avatamsaka Sutra was almost an infinite number, let's just call it an infinite number of bodhisattvas from infinite time and space. There they all are. You're invoking all of these bodhisattvas. And a mantra in itself has some resonance. Some mantras for me have more resonance than others. So Wa Om Song Jong is a whoa whoa sound. And that goes deep, into your system somehow. If you're always meditating like this, your mind's just going to flitter away. But if it's strong center. So that's what I recommend. That's what I found works for me. So try it. And, if you try it and then you have some questions about it, something comes up and doesn't seem right to you, or you can't quite do it, or you have any question about it, just get in touch with me, email me. Or we can have another Zoom meeting and I can observe your abdomen. This could be an intimate teaching moment. Anyway, thank you for your question. And for those of you who have heard this maybe many times before, it wouldn't hurt to hear it even again. So thank you. Well, are there any other?
I have a question. This
Yeah.
is Jane.
Hi, Jane.
Um, could you say something about primary point? I hear that term and I've seen it, and it's the title of the journal um, of the quantum school. Could you just say what that is or talk about it a little?
Yeah, so you know what a point is. So, and a point can serve as a center. So, primary point, primary means, number one, right? It can refer to a number of things. The first thing, to your primary point, to your center, to your tangen, if you want, the point a little below your navel, your energy garden, so your center, that can be primary point. Or it can refer to the main point. So what is the main point of our practice? It's easy to get it down to two main points. Find your true self and help all beings. So if you can condense that, into one point, you found primary point. And in fact, when you look at that, what you might regard as, the two points of our practice, strong center or 3 points. Let's boil 3 points down to one, okay? So strong center, compassion, clear mind. Yeah, these three are one. When your mind is really clear and you really perceive this world as it is, compassion, is always concomitant with that. It's only natural. And the strong center is what enables you to actually do that. So if you can make these 3 points, 1 point, then that's primary point. Or you could say primary point is, the main point of Buddhist teaching. And then you can go on and define the main point of Buddhist teaching, whatever you want. So, or the primary point of our practice. If you had to say, what is the primary point of our practice? What can you say? To help all beings. And that's the point of having a clear mind and a strong center. It's to help all beings. So it's a handy, Buddhist phrase, and it perhaps has several applications. Zen Master Sung San was fond of saying, "That's the point. That's the point." When he wanted to make a point, as we say. So I always think of him, when I think of primary point and the way he taught, and how he had a singular primary kind of focus that always came through, in his demeanor. Whenever he was teaching, whenever he was eating breakfast, there was a strong center there, strong center, primary point. So I think I managed to talk around your question without actually answering it. Around and around and around, but we want to be, boom, right in the middle. So thank you for your question. Are there any other questions?
Well, excuse me. Hi, Stan. I have a question. First of all, my condolences on your recent loss of your sister. My question is in regards to the relationship between meditation and brain health. I've sort of seen my mother kind of cognitively decline a little bit, memories. She got a cognitive impairment disorder diagnosis recently. And it just got me to thinking about brain health, and I thought, well, surely meditation is good for that. I know I understand that it's not so maybe helpful to instrumentalize one's practice and to think, okay, I'm doing this so that I can get this from it, but I thought, well, gosh, if I could understand a little bit better, maybe the how good meditation is for the brain, then that would help me sort of clear the decks of my schedule and say, no, I have to practice this amount of time every day, and it just might be helpful for my practice. And so, I guess my question is, if you know just off the top of your head of any good books that have been written about kind of the cognitive benefits of meditation practice.
Off the top of my head, I don't know of any titles. I'm pretty sure that there have been, neurological studies of meditation. In fact, that definitely have heard of these studies, but I don't know really what the results are, if they are definitive. And right now, I can't even recall the title of any such book. And if anyone does, please speak up now. Well, maybe not. So I'll tell you what, though. I'll look into this, and I'll get back to you. So I'm 78, and both my mother and my sister, who just died of Alzheimer's. And I was in a position to, a very close position with my mother, unfortunately at a distance, with my sister, to observe, their decline. And, it, to a certain extent, must be genetic. And, it may be something that appears in my life. And, it may be, and really, again, I have no evidence for it, that my long meditation practice is in some way forestalling it. That could be. But there's my brother, who's 2 years older than me and never meditated for 10 seconds in his life. And, he's pretty sharp too. So who knows about this. But
There's some comments in the chat.
let's look at this. So is this altered traits? Altered traits? Is that what it is, Miranda?
Yes. No period of altered traits.
Altered traits is the title.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So everyone, this is in the chat, and Judy points out to me directly, the great Theravada master Mahagosananda died from Alzheimer's. Imagine he meditated quite a bit. So that would be evidence to the contrary. And any others? No, I guess those are the only two chats. So it's from Mahagosananda's demise. I guess you could infer, well, it's not a sure thing that meditation is going to prevent Alzheimer's. But in a very general way, it, I would say, has improved, or at least stabilized, my own mental health. And that's more of a subjective feeling than anything I have any evidence for. Maybe because I've meditated so much, it's just sort of woven into my general mental state. Now, I'm not saying by saying that I'm always in some kind of state of samadhi, far from it. But yeah, it's been I can't untangle the cause and effect here at all. It's all kind of an integrated experience for me. But anyone else is interested, please do look into it and maybe post a message on the Kansas Zen Center website. How many of us here are older than 70? Not that many, okay. Mostly a bunch of youngsters here. That's good. But we have time for one more question. And thank you for your question, Don.
Thank you.
It's an important issue. Time for one more.
Yes, I want to ask, I won't formulate it as a direct question, but for your thoughts about the situation in which, well, it relates to the previous question and to my experience in the course of my life. I have watched a number of people experience cognitive decline in the years and months prior to their deaths. And when I think about the importance of this practice, it feels a bit ominous to me that to know that a precondition of being able to keep a strong center or come back to oneself in the way that we try to do is to not have Alzheimer's, to not have dementia, to have we need to have our cognitive capacities functioning at a certain level in order to maintain the awareness of self. That's not the right way to put it, but in order to know when we're wandering, whatever, when the mind is wandering, how can you come back to yourself if you have lost the self to dementia? And I don't expect you to have an answer to that one, but I would be interested in you sharing your reflections. It seems like it, might have perhaps even crossed your mind in relation to your family situation, a prospect of future in which you might not have the capacity to practice in the way that we do. What are your thoughts about that, and feelings as well?
Yes, it certainly has crossed my mind, and there's no evidence, considerable cognitive decline anyway. Like most people my age, sometimes I have trouble remembering names, things like that. But then I remember that's been going on for 50 years. So it's probably not advanced old age. That's the cause there. What I think of most often is the importance of, to use a Buddhist phrase, good and noble friends. And I happen to have very close to me a very good and very noble friend. And you can see her on the screen right now. Members of one's Sangha can also serve if you have no one close to you in your family or simply in your life. And these friendships based on practice are really valuable. And I think that any Dharma friend that you have would be very responsive and very helpful if you start to experience cognitive decline. So Sangha, is one of the three jewels. Buddha, which is both the historical Buddha and our own Buddha nature. Dharma, which is the teaching in its most comprehensive sense, and Sangha. So we support each other in our practice, and to whatever extent it's possible, we support each other in our lives. And I think turning to Sangha in times of need is it's a very good move. And it's something that perhaps we don't always think of. Maybe to a certain extent we compartmentalize our practice and our relationship to Sangha members. So Sangha really is an essential part of our practice. We're not hermit practitioners. So, to make, your condition and needs known to Sangha members is perfectly appropriate. So those have been my thoughts and reflections, and I think it's something that many of us now and all of us at some point later, really have to pay attention to. So thank you for your question, Kelly. And that brings us to the end of our appointed half hour. So thank you all very much.